I'm now going to hand over to Chris Brown, our Chief Product Officer. As Andrew alluded to, Chris joined us fairly recently. Him and Andrew were introduced mutually through their hairstylist. Chris brings a ton of new thinking and energy to Relativity that we're all super excited about as well. But with that, we can have a warm round of applause, please, for Chris Brown.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys. Really, really great to be here. Before I met Andrew's hairstylist, I had hair like a Dothraki prince, and then I just said, it looks better. It looks better what Andrew's doing. I'm going to do that. As Steve mentioned, I'm Chief Product Officer of Relativity. I started in November of 2018. I want to give you just a little bit about my background before coming to Relativity. And that is, I've been a CEO before, effectively brought a company to market and got it acquired. I've been a Chief Product Officer before. I spent about 10 years for the company Orbitz Worldwide, an global online travel company that did business all around the world, B2C and B2B. Specifically in Europe, did it with brands like eBookers in Switzerland and the UK and France and Germany, Mr. Jet in Sweden. And it was in that kind of time period that I'd spent a lot of years coming through Europe and kind of thinking about the localization and kind of unique needs of France versus unique needs of Germany versus Switzerland versus Sweden, and kind of think about all those things as we're kind of building out travel platforms, but also getting very acquainted with what makes consumers tick and how to really speed their experiences through a software platform, equally from our B2B platforms that were in these markets. And so when I had the opportunity to kind of choose what was next in my career, I was really looking for a space, an industry that was at the nexus of all the great forces kind of our time from a technology perspective. And those things are stuff that you guys have heard about. And in the legal space, the legal technology industry, the things like artificial intelligence, security and privacy, mobility and IoT, and obviously the movement to the cloud. These forces are totally transforming the industry that we all operate. And one of the things that was so exciting for me in joining Relativity was to be at the nexus of this change. And really, when you've worked in industries like retail that I have, and high tech, and corporate events and corporate travel, there's something so foundational about what we do here in this industry that we're literally the bedrock of democracy, of common law, of basically making that actionable for people, making law more accessible to more people, finding justice in ever more important ways in the way that, and that's all as a result of these transformational changes. That's both becoming easier and in some respects more difficult as this proliferation of data moves around and around and around. And so my job today is kind of think about these vectors of change in the world. And as we think about the product strategy for Relativity, we want to harness some of these momentums, make them available to you in our product strategy and our roadmaps and our capabilities, and ideally help you and the community set yourselves in position to help your customers and your clients achieve justice and find the truth in all the areas that you're working in light of these trends, right? And so a couple of things that we're focused on to kind of make this happen for 2019 and beyond. Number one is simplifying the user experience. So with Relativity, there's tons of great power. With the functionality that you've built on top of Relativity, there's tons of great power. I'm going to bring in a couple of great examples of new things that we're doing in the product to bring that to life. But we want to make it more accessible to more people more of the time. And there's a big emphasis at Relativity on this across product, across sales, across our customer success, across our service delivery function, making everything more accessible, more easy to use. The second piece is making and building a state-of-the-art cloud product to ensure that you guys get all the scale you need, on-demand scaling depending on your various work projects, speed, throughput, security, all the things that you'd expect from a modern SaaS solution. We've got a ton of investment in that space. The thing that makes Relativity very, very unique is its commitment to an end-to-end e-discovery platform. So one of the things that was very interesting to me coming into the industry was getting acquainted with the EDRM and kind of thinking about, and I even talked to one of the originators of the EDRM spec and kind of thinking about how the different pieces came together that formed the sort of the basic building blocks of this industry, and thinking about how computing has changed over the last 15 years and how the original concepts of the EDRM were oftentimes limited by the computing constraints in all the different areas along that journey of where data would flow and where you would discover the truth. And now as we move all of those kind of different pieces to the cloud, and we're able to not think just about these in the serial flow, but also kind of like a modern information worker, what happens when you can use analytics anywhere in your process? What happens when you can identify facts way down the path getting ready for trial, but you can identify those facts way up the path as you're doing processing of data or collection of data. And so we're really committed. You'll see a lot of the work in our roadmap is about not only bringing in these other capabilities, but interweaving them in unique ways to cut down the time it takes you to get to an insight, to get to an action. And then last but not least, our emphasis on the platform. When you think about those vectors of disruptive change that we're all experiencing in all of our different industries, the only way to future-proof the platform for that is to build a platform that is extensible and powerful, that we can continually innovate on and bring new capabilities to market at the heart of what you guys do in the e-discovery space. And so we're really excited on all the investment in the platform. When you think about our full portfolio, we're continuing to keep that a first-class citizen. So I'm going to talk about 4 different things today and give you some examples. Hopefully, my mission is to get you excited. I want you to be curious about some of these things and ask about them later in the day. Hopefully, think about some questions you can kind of ask later. I'm also going to bring up 3 people from my team, 2 different product managers and a GM over one of our products. I'm going to bring up a great customer of ours, and I'm going to bring up a great new partner of ours that we're going to announce all in the next 25 minutes. So it's going to be busy up here on stage. Okay, but first, I want to talk about the user experience. And like I said, Relativity is focusing deeply on this user experience. It's a massive investment. It's literally one of the reasons I came to Relativity. It was the first set of people I hired into Relativity. It's all about building out a great user experience. And as we think about the need for this, kind of look back at the past and what's changed from consumer landscape over the last 10 years and the enterprise landscape, and some of these things that have changed and the people that have brought about this change really spark kind of what we're doing at Relativity. The first one, as you guys know, does anybody remember the first time they did a Google search? Remember, it was like 2003, you were just out of college, you had your whole life in front of you. Right? Did anybody go back and do a search on Lycos or Ask Jeeves or Yahoo after that? You did, huh? You were really dedicated to Ask Jeeves, right? Okay. One of the things about searching on Google the very first time was I was blown away with the speed. The speed of a platform built in the cloud, built with amazing indexing, built with amazing scale. It basically rendered all other solutions obsolete, right? And if you think of anything that Relativity is focusing on from a product standpoint, or Relativity One in the cloud, and you know from talking with Andrew and hearing from him today, it's an obsession with speed. We know that the work you do that is incredibly important. We know the volumes of data you have to go through to find the truth, whether it's our analytics products or our reviewers. If we can, every ounce of speed we can eke out of the platform is another ounce of justice you guys can find and we can deliver. And so we're super, super passionate about that, and you're going to see more and more investment in that space. The second big move that's changed people's expectations around the user experience is obviously the iPhone. They are quintessential from the design change that they've brought to market. And when they came to market, there was a number of naysayers, if you can remember, because the iPhone didn't do multitasking. And the iPhone didn't have a keyboard. And there was no way BlackBerry was ever going to get outdone by the iPhone. But what they kind of proved was really intuitive design, really focusing on time to value, getting you to the parts that really matter, and actually giving you some enjoyment along the way can make a huge difference in the way that you interact with your world. And so obviously the iPhone has seen super successful. We're taking a lot of the kind of insights from that process as well. As we move into the enterprise, just a few weeks ago, Slack went public. Their whole mission and what's made them super successful is they're ubiquitous across every device, whether it's mobile, an app on your desktop, the web, it's the same exact experience. They're connected across all these devices, and they have a huge emphasis about being connected with the rest of the things in your productivity suite and connected with the rest of the world. And that also is exactly one of the key driving principles of Relativity. It's about connection and about connecting to all the different things. And one of the partners we'll bring up today is describing that specifically, like our emphasis on connecting people into this ecosystem. And lastly, I think a good example of design and user experience is Microsoft and how they've evolved over the years. They now have a fantastic suite of products, making us ever more and more productive in the cloud. They're thinking about all the different ways that they can leverage collaboration, keep the data where you need it, keep it secure. But they've also transitioned their business, like many of you are transitioning your businesses, and like we're transitioning our business from a business that was providing value on-prem to also a value in the cloud as well. And I think some of the constructs of that are what we're taking kind of principally from our design change. So if you remember back when Microsoft Word was before the cloud, they had an experience that was very much built in a way that I would describe as a default advanced solution. So back when you were working on original on-premises products, you're thinking about a default advanced solution. How do I surface all the different options I have at one time so I can be an expert and really go through this interface in an expert fashion? One of the things you've seen as they've moved to the cloud is they've come out with more of a default simple, optionally advanced platform. When we think about Relativity and where we're taking the user experience, the metaphors really come to mind for us as well. We're embarking on creating a default, simple, optionally advanced, always powerful solution that takes all the power that Relativity has to offer and making it easier and more accessible to all of you. And that's a big journey for the product. It's a big journey for the platform. It's one that I'm super excited to kind of involve everybody in the audience with. We've got a number of sessions on it today. We've been already working on it throughout this year. We're going to be working on it for the next number of months and into next year. And we're really excited to have you on that journey because as Andrew kind of talked about this community at the start, we want to innovate with you. We want to make you successful, and it's a big part of what we're doing. And why is it important? It's because what you do is massively valuable. You know, there's a ton of customers here with a bunch of unique stories, both in the corporate space, in the government space, in the nonprofit space. Everything you do is extremely valuable. And so when we think about it from an interface perspective, we think about how do we decrease the time it takes for you to get to value? How do we decrease the time it takes to process a job, to get to reviewing a document, to finding a fact, to running a production? And so everything about that interface is about giving you less time to get to the value. And so we do it in a couple of ways. Like we're literally measuring every single click in the system. Particularly with Rel 1, we can now analyze with modern techniques all the different ways you can kind of look at user behaviors and say, hey, people aren't clicking on this thing that much, or hey, they're kind of grok this piece of information before making a choice on a button over here. And we're looking at reducing those clicks, reducing the extra pages, helping you place information more smartly so you understand what's happening at any one page faster. You get to understanding, and ultimately you can complete a task or complete a job more successfully and more quickly. And so there's a ton of investment in this space, and we're just sort of at the tip of the iceberg. And as some evidence of this momentum, one of the things you do when you're kind of reshaping an interface is it's not just about the big stuff, it's about the small stuff. And so we had our entire organization a few weeks back comb through every part of the product and say, we've got a channel inside the company we talk on, Slack. We kind of talk about all these things that could improve a user's life. And we kind of quickly assembled and went after a whole host of fixes that are coming out in our Foxglove release. 150 unique ideas to improve the interface. Not big things, but really focusing on tiny things. Simple call to actions, buttons that weren't clear, error messages that weren't clear, things like that that we can kind of focus on to get improvements throughout the platform. And we're going to keep doing this over and over and over again as the muscle around user experience continues to improve. And I have to tell you, small changes, subtle changes make a huge impact. When I was running product for Orbitz Worldwide and eBookers and all these brands, changing a button color could be millions of pounds, millions of dollars. Like clarifying a call to action, improving an error message could literally be making your business plan or not making your business plan. And it's like that attention to detail, that level of experimentation around improving the interface that helps us ensure that you guys are productive and you're able to get to the valuable things that you want to do faster and faster and faster. Taking it up a notch from the small things, we're also considering the ways these transformations to the cloud are changing the needs for people in the legal space and in e-discovery. We're collapsing workflows, so we're integrating with Office 365. So if your company or your corporate customers' data is in the cloud, we're able to collect from that directly as opposed to moving it to on-prem and then back up in the cloud, particularly if it's already in Azure, where our RHEL 1 already works. We've got a number of customers beta testing this product right now. It's set for release later this fall. We've also released a new mobile app, principally focused on design for Relativity 1. It was released in Q1. And the feedback on this application has been really through the roofs from early users of the product. It makes reviewing a snap. It gives you access into information kind of on the go, so accessible where you are. And very importantly, it gives you access and accessibility to documents that you don't have to produce and run into an email and lose the security footprint around for you to see. And so it's a really important thing, not only for your accessibility, but also for the security of the documents you have under review. Moving forward, we are still now thinking about time to value from a workflow perspective. So in Foxglove, the native flower around Chicago and of Illinois, that also happens to be a release of ours in June for Relativity 1, we're also introducing new prescribed workflows or workspace templates. And we're doing them in two areas right now. We're going to be extending them further, which is furthering our point of view on setting you up for success immediately with the release. So we've got one around early case assessment, giving you the tools to quickly streamline culling of data, finding initial facts, getting things rolling. We've also got one around investigations, so built-in dashboards set up for you to jumpstart your investigations. Again, these are templates that we're providing with Foxglove. We'll continue to provide more and more of these templates. Again, and if you look at the sort of time to value of any of these actual templates and what they can do for you, we've got a team of folks literally in a lab counting clicks, trying to reduce what it takes to get to that value faster and faster and faster in a number of ways that we can. And last but not least, we're starting to imagine what that next generation interface is for Relativity. And we would like your help on that. And so we've got a couple sessions today where we're kind of exploring what does the next generation interface for Relativity really look like, and what will it need to do? What kind of information can it, from a default simple perspective, put behind the curtain? What does it need to kind of pull forward? What are the key pieces it needs to keep? So this is some examples of things that we're working on, just concepts. But ultimately, it's about streamlining your review experience, highlighting and making searching more easier, maybe collapsing searching and viewing, bringing forward the actual person who's working on the case, helping you improve collaboration. So lots of things that we're working on an interface perspective. And in fact, like as you'll kind of see from some of the examples I'm bringing up next, we've got over $110 million of investment from an R&D perspective in 2019. So number one, that's a huge investment in our software and our products for this community. And then number two, user experience as a part of that is way up. So orders of magnitude of investment, and we really believe it's about making all the power that comes with Relativity more accessible to all of you. And as I said, I'd love to encourage you to innovate with us along this journey. So I really, really appreciate your feedback.